Hey there, fans. This is Nora Williams over here at Eric Wangar's tech studio. Just going to give you a little tour of all the equipment that's up for our show on Ragtime. Ragtime is kind of a piano-centric form. I didn't know much about it until Eric suggested it, and it was like, oh my god, kind of cool. I mean, coming up through the classical conservatory system, I really didn't know anything about the history of ragtime. I kind of knew it was really fun music. Loved Scott Joplin, and played it a lot like quartets and weddings, but I really didn't know the history behind ragtime. And so Eric enlightened me that this art form was really quite something from 1890s-ish to about 1920, and this was created by the black musicians in Missouri. At that point in our history, black musicians or black people were not allowed into concert halls. I mean, ridiculous, right? But that's what it was like. So this music, which is always through composed, it's not improvised at all. And the style ragtime comes from ragged rhythm, which means syncopated. And it's this very elegant art form. And the more that I've delved into it, and then Eric and I have been having discussions about it, and I've been talking to various people all about it, and it's a really rich part of our American heritage. It is a true American art form that I don't think gets enough play and understanding about how the origins actually came to be. And at this time in our history, it is a great time to look at the contributions of all Americans, especially the black community that's gotten just, their contributions to history often have been buried, along with a whole bunch of other people of color and, different immigrant types, etc. When whoever was in the minority at the time gets often written out of the history books or left out. And so to me, this concert is about bringing, it's highlighting all the richness of our American heritage. And as the WW Salon series is an American-focused repertoire, this is just absolutely perfect. So, Eric, do you want to say a couple of words about what ragtime means to you as a pianist?
Ragtime, it really was a piano-centric form, and I think, what I associate ragtime with, it sort of fills the space in between European classical music and jazz. It's about grandeur, it's about elegance, it's about stateliness, and it's not. You're not. It's not to be played fast. It's not to be played loud. It's not to be played with lots of swing. It's a stately. It's about the promenade.
Right.
These were composers, but they weren't allowed to write for the concert hall, so they wrote for the piano. And the part of the reason why the piano, for one thing, one player can play, but you have every note available to the entire orchestra. And then you can take those pieces and expand them into bands. And ragtime bands and ragtime ensembles got huge. They got famous. And I saw a documentary where Duke Ellington and Leonard Bernstein were discussing. And the big question is, an African American and a Jewish American, both pioneers in symphonic jazz, and they decided that Duke Ellington wrote symphonic jazz, and Leonard Bernstein wrote jazz symphonies, and they said that was the difference, and it was basically all what they were allowed to do and the cards they were given to play. But when you listen to ragtime, one of the rules is don't play it too fast, don't play it too loud, and it's just all about elegance.
Yeah, it is all about elegance, and I appreciate that. And because both Eric and I, our ancestry hails from immigrant groups. I mean, Eric comes through the Jewish lineage, and my background is African American with a little Choctaw Indian and Irish German. So, we got the American melting pot happening on this series, people. And we're also putting some contemporary rags on here from the 70s, and Eric wrote a couple, which are, it just goes to show you that the form is actually still active, it's still alive, it's still growing, and it's just such a pleasure to highlight, just part of our roots.
And we're playing just a smidgen of the genre, but we're playing two rags by Scott Joplin, a white guy from the '70s, William Balcom.
Right.
We're playing-
Pulitzer Prize winning composer.
Yeah,
might I add.
a prodigy genius.
Right.
We're playing, two I wrote. One that I wrote about, 30 years ago, and then one I wrote this year, and then we're doing the Mallets piece from Green.
I know, that is such a cool piece.
And it's wild stuff, and that's a fun piece. But so much of American history, and one thing that's crazy, by the way, is when I did some research for this concert and I started looking up visual images, one of the things that I realized is you can't get away from exposure to minstrelsy, blackface. You look at some of the titles from the sheet music, and it was as racist as any imagery you could possibly imagine. I mean, to a modern eye, you recoil from some of the racism of the imagery, and you forget that this was just the way popular music was packaged a century ago. Right. It kind of knocks you on your ass from a modern eye.
Right, and the thing about it, the thing about it is that this is part of our history, people, as Americans. Yeah. And it's worth it to look at the stuff that it makes us cringe now, perhaps. But it's part of our history, and this is part of, in my view, coming from both black and white heritages, this is part of the healing. This is part of where we look at the trauma that we have inflicted on each other as Americans, and how we surpass that, how we heal it, how we get out of that frozen traumatic state into something that is so much more alive and beautiful and continues to create. And Americans have continued to create through all of the ups and downs of our history, and we still are now.
Yeah, and sunlight is the best disinfectant. The way to heal from this kind of stuff is not to bury it, is to not burn books, to not tear down statues, to not erase history. You have to understand history in its unpleasant, horrific, in-your-face reality, and look at it and say, wow, we're never going back there again. This is something that Jews discuss, is that the only way to avoid repeating history is to remember history. Yeah. The second you try to erase history, that's when you're destined to repeat history.
Right.
So part of what we're trying to accomplish too is we're not, this is not a proud part of American history by any stretch. But we have to look in the mirror and say, what did we contribute to these images, to this racism?
And that is part of the spiritual journey as we are here in America doing right now. And that is one of my passions, because I think this healing is the story of my life. It's absolutely the story of my life. And, when we can start to create and understand and heal from some of this trauma through beauty and harmony and love, and unflinchingly looking at what is not working, but continue to move forward and create, I think, I'm optimistic. I'm always optimistic. And it's because I'm not afraid to look at how ugly it was.
Healing's the best we got, right? Forgiveness is the best we got. Forgiveness is the only answer. Forgive ourselves, forgive other people, and just try to do better. What else can we do?
Yeah, so we are now going to start rehearsing, because we can always try to do better when it comes to all these fantastic notes in this piece. So we will see you soon, June 13th. Virtual Ragtime concert featuring Ragtime in the WW Salon. See ya.